So how should you know which strategy to pick when you have to choose between two? Today we'll talk about exactly that and how to go about kind of picking a strategy over the other, what things you have to consider and think about and go through. So let's get to that right away. What's up, traders? Welcome back to Bangkok and Thailand. I've been here for some time in this apartment. I kind of like it. It's been a different lifestyle than being traveling in hotels all the time, kind of a different vibe, but it's kind of productive, so perfect. Today I want to share with you kind of what you should think about and what you should do when it comes to picking a strategy out of two. Like, what should you go through? Which one should you pick over the other? Is it only about the profit? And the answer is, of course, no. Big no. But you gotta think about a few things, and that's kind of what I want to expand over here. So 5 things that you can think about when it comes to picking the right strategy between 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, doesn't matter. The first thing is, you gotta think about looking at the return over drawdown ratio. So that's something that I learned from people working in banks, so big investors and traders that trade for other people. They don't think about the profit. They think about how much they make on a year, for example, or in a month, versus their typical drawdown in a year or in a month. So let's say you make 50% a year and you get a drawdown of like maximum 10% a year. That gives you a 5-to-1 ratio, right? So 50 of reward to 10 of loss. So you get what I mean. So that gives you a better measure of what you can expect related to the risk. It's good to have a big return and a lot of money in your bank account or in your trading account, but if you cannot kind of guarantee that money over time, or if you cannot have a sustainable way of making that money, chances are that you won't be lasting very long in trading, and that's unfortunate. So you need to think about how much you make in relation to your drawdown and your risk, and that's going to help a lot. So you might want to look at which one is the best return to drawdown ratio, or just think about kind of if they don't meet a certain criteria of 3-to-1 of reward to drawdown, then maybe you want to kind of skip them, because those are going to be not very good for trading for other people. They might be good for you and you might make a lot of money with that, but it also means that your risk is quite high for the amount of money you make. So think about 3-to-1 and above, and maybe you want to look at the best one for that ratio. Now the second thing to look at is you need to look at the smoothness, or your equity curve basically. So how smooth does it grow? And that's something that you just look on the chart, you see what your trades over time, or what number of trades on MetaTrader 4, you would see this when you backtest. So what is the smoothness of the curve? If you have a curve that's like really smooth, it might be too smooth also, and you want to be careful about this. But you want to have some smoothness to the upside, of course, but not too much. Not where it's like perfect, like things you see and people that sell algos online or stuff like that. They usually like put a really smooth curve that's like upward, and I wouldn't rely on this because that's usually going to be too or over optimized, and you cannot rely on this. So you want to have some smoothness, not too much, but you really don't want to have like big dips and big drawdowns, which would be, let's say you have a chance of having a 50% drawdown, so like your money increases over time pretty smoothly, and then big drawdown, and then it comes back up over time after, and that's not going to work. Because like what happens if you trade for investors or other people, they're going to be pissed off and they're going to want their money back if you lose like 50% of it. So some smoothness, not too many ups and downs, not too many swings, although if they are constant, it's better, of course. Okay, so that's it for the smoothness of the curve, and that's going to help just looking at it by yourself, watching the curve, watching the curve of equity, and seeing if it's smooth or not. Now, third thing to look at is you want to think about how many trades have you taken for each strategy. So if you have one or you took only like 20 trades in a year, might not be enough to justify the result. Maybe like the results are better than the other strategy you have, but maybe 20 trades isn't enough, and you want to look for bigger numbers because you want the statistics to play out, and for that you need a big amount of trades. So 100 trades minimum would be better. If you have a really good return but a lower number of trades, I would prefer a average return but a higher number of trades, just to be careful and just to be cautious of what could happen. And that way you kind of are more certain that the result will be what you thought they were going to be. And if you have only like a few trades, then you might get a stat, but that stat might be skewed to the upside or downside or whatever, where you cannot really justify whether the results are good or not. So enough trade is important. Pick a strategy always that has enough trades that you've backtested or that you've tested. Or if you're trading live or trading demo, pick one that you've took enough trade for. That's going to help quite a lot. Okay. And point number 4 is when we come to making sure and checking that your strategy is not over optimized, meaning you have too many parameters of optimization, you try to like make it perfect and your curve is going to be really smooth, but when you get to trade it live, the result won't compare because you've optimized it for the past and that doesn't work in the future. So you want to be very careful about this. And that means that you first also need to do some out of sample testing like we talked about before. I'll put a video below about that, and this was about how to prove your strategy is working in the market. So watch this after if you want, link below. But that's it, you want to be able to test and make sure it's not too optimized for the past conditions, and that's something you have to be careful. So if you have too many parameters that kind of make it really perfect, chances are it's going to be too much and it won't work in the market. So you better pick something simple with fewer parameters that you have good result for, as opposed to something like really good with a lot of parameters that don't really make sense in the market. Like they don't make sense logically. Okay, so if you have like the RSI to confirm with the Bollinger Band with this and that, maybe it's too much. Maybe this is over optimized for the market. So you want to be careful about this part. And finally, the last part in all of this, guys, is if you think that both strategies are going to work, and if you have like good characteristic for all the points we talked about before, the 4 points, think about trading both, as long as they're not correlated. So look at the correlation in your result, or in the trades, are they the same trades or not? Maybe they're like super different. And if that's the case, you might want to trade both. If they're very similar and they're going to be correlated, then only pick one. But you could always have more than one, and that's totally fine. You could always have more than one variation of your system. No problem with that. That's totally fine. As long as you understand that they're not correlated and that they would make sense to trade both, and that you're not increasing your risk by trading two systems. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Those are the 5 things you have to look at for deciding between two trading strategies. Comment below. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. If you have any other tips, also comment there below and let us know what are your tips for finding out the best out of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 strategies in the market. Comment below with this. Here are a few comments for the past video. Appreciate you guys for leaving comments as always. Subscribe if it's not done yet. And I'll catch you back here in Bangkok tomorrow. Ciao.